Let's get connected.
Neighborhood Connect.
Paul Young here with Joyce Cox. We'd like to thank you all for listening to Neighborhood Connect. Vice President of Client and External Relations for Universal Commercial.
Proud to be a part of this podcast.
Neighborhood Connect.
You always get enlightened, inspired, and then, there's no more inspiring and enlightening place than Memphis, Tennessee.
Neighborhood Connect.
Welcome to Neighborhood Connect. We are here at Claiborne Temple, and today we're going to be talking about the Memphis African American Journey.
Yes.
Memphis Heritage Trail is going to be a great discussion. I'm your host, Paul Young. I'm the Director of Housing and Community Development. I'm joined here with the co-host.
And that's Joyce Cox. Good morning, or afternoon, or midday. And I am the manager of the Office of Communications and Civic Engagement. Yeah, that's a long title. So we call ourselves OCCE.
Right,
so, Paul, we are here at Claiborne Temple.
Yes, it's a beautiful place, a lot of history, a lot of nostalgia, significant place for the city of Memphis.
Exactly.
And we have a great discussion today with two exciting guests. I want to introduce Miss Carolyn Banks from ATOP, A Tour of Possibilities. Welcome to the show.
Great. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
And also we have a friend to the show, one that's been here multiple times. That's Miss Felicia Harris. Welcome to the show. She's the manager of our planning department, program manager for Memphis Heritage Trail. Welcome, Felicia.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, we're glad you're here this morning. Well, Paul, I'm excited. We've talked about and heard about Memphis Heritage Trail, and now we can touch some things, right? We can touch some things. I've seen some of the markers, and so, Felicia, where are we?
Well, thank you. So, Memphis Heritage Trail is a economic development and cultural tourism project that the City of Memphis Housing and Community Development has undertaken. And it is about community development. It's about using preservation and conservation strategies to really tell the history and the culture and the heritage of our city. And so kind of where we are right now, we have completed phase one. Phase one was about getting our project launched and getting it on the ground. So now visitors and residents alike can see the markers. They can experience it through our app and QR codes, and they can do walking tours and biking tours to many of our assets right now in the civil rights loop.
Yeah.
And phase two, which we're moving toward over the next year, we will be about how do we get out into the community more, in the neighborhoods more, highlighting the heritage and the history of the neighborhoods, and also increasing our technology, or expanding our technology platform.
So Felicia, I was at, and this is for everybody, I was in Leadership Memphis, in the best class ever. We're going to be done this 2019 class. And we had a conversation last week, and we were talking about Memphis as a city. And the conversation was around, why don't we embrace more of our African American history? And so I had to, of course, stand up and defend that we are actually doing some of that. But I'd like to hear from you or Ms. Banks. Just talk about why this is important. Why are we even doing this?
Right. Yeah, I really think it's important for many reasons. One, starting with our residents, for the residents to understand and know about Memphis history in general, and specifically what the role of African Americans played in our history and our building of our city as a whole. As we know that currently African Americans represent the majority population in our city. So it would behoove us to, as residents, to know more about our city. Secondly, along that, for our younger citizens, our future holders, if you will, of our history, our children, our youth alike need to be learning Memphis history and learning about our history and culture. And then lastly, I would say for our visitors, when visitors come to the city, they want to find out what's unique, what's special about Memphis. And that really includes our African American history history and culture. So definitely, I think we are embracing it. We are, looking at ways in which we can expand it. We can explore it even more. But Carolyn, what did you have to add?
Well, I think it's kind of hard to discuss something or embrace something that you just don't know.
Right.
And part of, I think, the issue was you cannot embrace it because we're just not aware of it.
Right.
And when I first started my business 4 years ago and then heard what was happening with the Memphis Heritage Trail, I was off the rails because I knew it was time. Mm-hmm. It was time that not only people who visit Memphis get a sense of Memphis, but that people who live here get a sense of the incredible history that's right in our own backyard.
And, it brings about pride.
Yes.
I had an opportunity about 5 years ago to go to Birmingham. And what really amazed me was, because they have a heritage trail as well, was my friends and I went to the 16th Street Church. And the youth of the church, they are the ones that gave us the tour. And they talked about the history. And, it made me realize that without a past, you have no future. So you've got to know about what happened in the past. And it gives you that sense of pride to know I came from a heritage that was great.
Right.
And you could sense it in the young man that gave us a tour. And I was like, oh, my God. And we could... when we have young people here and when they learn about their history, and I'm going to say this, when you talk to young people that graduated from Melrose High School, you see that same sense of community.
Exactly.
Yeah, because they're instilling it.
Exactly.
You're listening to Neighborhood Connect, powered by the Kudzuki Network. Ms. Banks, you started off telling us some great stuff, but let's back it up a little bit. Tell us a little bit about ATOP and what you're doing for those that may not have heard of it.
Absolutely. ATOP, A Tour of Possibilities, was birthed out of someone telling me I could not do this or that people did not want to know this. I worked for a traditional company that was a national company, and in my quest to make our tours more inclusive, specifically having African American history in it, my CEO told me point blank that people don't want to hear this. They don't want to know because they don't want to be uncomfortable. Yeah. And I became so quickly aware of the fact that, number one, something I was always taught, that history is often written by people who, when things are uncomfortable, they choose not to put it in there. And a lot of our history is lost for many because it's not discussed and it's not talked about and it's not taught because some of it is really uncomfortable. But I'm like, if you don't get it, you don't get it.
Yeah.
We use a phrase a lot that if you don't know your history, you're bound to repeat it. We say that more often than most. But I kind of put a flip on it because I'm all about possibility. And I believe if you know your history, you can repeat the good stuff.
Exactly.
I mean, we have had examples in this very city, like a Robert Church, who was born into slavery and then became a millionaire. I mean, how does that happen? Mm-hmm. And I believe what he had in him is exactly what runs through our veins. So part of my mission is not only to have visitors appreciate Memphis, not just for Elvis and not just for barbecue, which is what we tend to promote most, but to get a feel. We now talk about the soul of Memphis. Well, the soul is real. And
yes,
the soul comes from those who went before us, who, yes, went through some stuff. And what's interesting for me is when I talk about African American history, they're thinking, oh, all you're going to talk about is slavery. No, I am going to talk about that because that was very real. But I'm also talking about the businesses that came before us.
Exactly.
So we talk about now building this entrepreneurial community. This is not new.
No.
This was happening before it was easy. This was happening before they had all these programs to help African American entrepreneurs get their businesses off the ground. That's what I want people to walk away with. I want you to get that there is possibility that abounds in Memphis.
And that's an exciting conversation right now because in Memphis we are experiencing so much activity and momentum.
Yeah.
And I think there's oftentimes when we drive through our inner city black neighborhoods, you're not necessarily seeing that same momentum and excitement, or some people feel like they're being left out. And I think it's important that we have this dialogue about the history because we need to instill the pride and show people that we've done this before.
Yes. That's right.
We've been here. And it's important that our kids and our young people are able to take advantage of what's happening, and we need to instill some pride. So Felicia, Why don't you tell us a little bit about some of the things that are that the specific projects that Heritage Trail is looking to acknowledge?
Right. So just to kind of stay on that entrepreneurship and small business line, one of the things I think, I think get lost within us talking about Memphis Heritage Trail is the holistic nature of the project. And it's not only about us just telling the story, but it's also about how do we move the story forward, and like who are some of the players and what are some of the components of the project. So business and entrepreneurship, business development is part of the project. Our project is very comprehensive in that we look at from business to tourism development, like other businesses that can come out of that, as well as the technology piece. Specifically, we're looking at adding more art. Using art as a place-making strategy within our neighborhoods. How do we tell our story through the use of art? So using public art, using our technology in terms of going to the next level with augmented reality, virtual reality on our app. Right now, regardless of where you are, you can get on the app, you can get on the website, and you can tour Memphis Heritage Trail. But now we want to take it to the next level. So give people opportunity through, whether it's through video games or through other technology experiences, to experience the app. Some kids, young people we are working with on the project, they want to do scavenger hunts and use coding and things like that. And so we're looking at that for the next phase. On the neighborhood level, is getting more with doing like other MEM shops in the next phase. MEM shops were business incubators that we did with Makita butter cookies and other things within our first phase. So we're looking to push that to the next level. So those are just a few of the things that we're talking about.
Okay, you're listening to Neighborhood Connect podcast show powered by the Kazukian Network. Well, Felicia, I just want you to kind of tell us, how do you feel? Why do you think Memphis Heritage Trail is so important to the city of Memphis? And anybody could really answer that question.
Sure.
Because I think we want to know, get opinions on it.
Right, yeah. Well, I think it's important, a lot of people, like as Carolyn was said, they don't want to address the past or to look at the past. But I really think that's important, and not just for the sake of doing so, but really for the sake of learning.
Exactly.
And learning who we are and identifying with who we are. All of us, all of that's within us, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's important. I think it's important as a city because, as I said, when people come here, they want to see something that's unique about the city. That's economic dollars. Mm-hmm. One of the things that we are doing is working with some of our partners to go to the world stage. And I think, and that's through whether it's the World Heritage stuff that we are working on with some of our partners, as well as how do we work with the local tourism industry specifically to really to promote our city holistically to a global audience. And so, as I think Carolyn was saying earlier, when people come from other countries, they already know a lot about our city. And so we need to do, I think, a better job in embracing our full story and promoting it to the world. And for Memphis Heritage Trail, that means to promote the collection of assets that we have. Our story in Memphis Heritage Trail is not about one asset, but it's about the collection of assets that we have and things that you can't find anywhere else in the world. And as we stand here and sit here in Claiborne Temple and all that happened here in 1968 with the civil rights struggle, with the sanitation workers strike, right outside the doors we have the I'm a Man Plaza. We can't get that anywhere else in the world. Only in Memphis can we experience the sanitation workers experience. And so we want to promote that globally, collectively to the world.
Okay, we all have a big smile on our face. Aren't we glad to be Memphians?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And I'm not even a Memphian, but I'm glad to be here.
We're glad you're here. We're definitely glad you're here. So I wanted to put you on the spot a little bit, Ms. Banks, and ask you, I know on your tours, well, one, tell us a little bit about your tours and how they're structured, but then two, give us a little bit of information that, Memphians may not know that's from our history.
Absolutely. First of all, the tours are offered regularly Wednesday through Saturday, 2 times a day at 9:45 and 1 p.m. And one of the things I really love about it is that it's on a 10-passenger van. So it gives a level of intimacy that often cannot be achieved on a larger vehicle, which also lends itself sometimes to discussion, that people find a level of comfort to ask the questions that perhaps they kind of wanted to but never had the platform to do. But the other thing about Memphis, that one of the first things that caught my eye, and I said I'm not from here, I'm a Bronx, New Yorker, boogie down, anyway. But when I started doing the research and found out that the name itself, Memphis, comes from Africa. I mean, what better connection could there be? So you're talking about some land surveyors that came and said, you know what? The name we're going to choose is a name of a city that is known for its greatness. So their thing was, we want to start with a name that makes sense, a name that actually looks into the future. So we're looking at the name of Memphis that was situated on the Nile River. Our Memphis sits on the mighty, mighty Mississippi River. So when you're looking for a basic connection, just saying the name Memphis brings you into the continent that perhaps many don't even think about.
That's amazing. Ooh. And so what kind of feedback do you hear, particularly from those that, from other countries? I think it's always interesting for Memphians because we oftentimes have a lower opinion of ourselves than others from the outside have. So what kind of feedback do you get from people after your tours?
Well, it really depends who they are. So first of all, as I mentioned earlier, when I had people from around the world come, they were like, there is more than Elvis here. I mean, they're just like, why didn't we know this before we got here? And they want to be the ones who are ambassadors now. You need to go to Memphis because there's so much more than what is often promoted. Right. When I have an opportunity to take Memphians around, and the one thing you learn as a tour guide is how to talk and hear people talk at the same time. It's an incredible skill because you get to hear some really good stuff. But hearing the conversations almost in the background was like, I can't believe that was, and then, for example, we'll go by Mason Temple. And then there are opportunities we'll have to go inside. Yeah. And there are Memphians born and raised, first of all, didn't know it was here. Never went inside and can't believe they pass it often, but just never made the connection. But I don't fault that on Memphians. In any city that you go to, most people never take the time to really find out what's in their own backyard unless they have guests and they want to throw them out the house and send them on a tour or something. But it's a matter of just taking just 2 hours. That's all it really takes to get an overview of this incredible city. No, we don't do it all. But we will be branching out eventually because I really want to do neighborhood tours, which is why I'm loving what Memphis Heritage Trail is doing. Because if you grew up in one spot, there's a chance you've never been somewhere else. And when you get a chance to go to another neighborhood and see what they're doing, you might go, we can do that right here.
Definitely.
There's an explosion coming. I'm telling you there's an explosion.
I love it. That's just how to connect neighborhoods, connecting people, and we learn from each other. And then, the challenges that we even have in this city, they're all over the world. But once you get to know a person, you really know how to help them.
Yes.
Exactly. So, I'm excited. I'm going to have to go on one of your tours.
This is going to be major for our city. I'm excited that we are embarking on this journey, and I think we have to do a better job of getting the word out. I know we've done a lot of earned media. I think we have to identify ways to make sure that, our neighborhoods are involved. And Felicia, I know that there's some exciting stuff that's happening in the Orange Mound community. I wanted to see if you could share with our listeners some of the things that are happening in that neighborhood.
Right. So Orange Mound is one of our most historically and culturally rich neighborhoods here in the city of Memphis. Over the month of October, we're doing October in Orange Mound, where they have a series of events going on all throughout the month. And then more specifically, as it relates to Memphis Memphis Heritage Trail, as well as the future of the neighborhood and of the city, is, I should say, next year they're celebrating their centennial, their anniversary. But before then, the last weekend of October, we are doing a temporary reactivation of the historic Melrose High School, the first African American, or what they would say first Negro junior high school in the city. And the school was built in 1938. And so they are the residents are very excited. We have a lot of energy, a lot of community-based organizations, as well as residents and churches working together to come together in a unified way to reactivate the school, to get the community in, want to learn about the school, and then help us to reimagine the school and the possibilities, if you will, for the school for the future. And so we're very excited about that.
Great. So we're getting ready to close, and I want to ask two things. One, if you have anything else, please share that. But then two, please leave the listeners with your social media, the way to get in contact with you. How can they find out more information about both Memphis Heritage Trail and ATOP? And I'll start with you, Felicia, and then come to you and let us close.
So, Memphis Heritage Trail, you can reach us and find us many ways. We have a Facebook, we have a website, memphisheritagetrail.com. We have our Memphis Heritage Trail app that you can download for free from your app store. You can follow us on our YouTube channel. Go there and check out some of the videos. All you do is put in Memphis Heritage Trail, and you will find about 13 or 14 different videos on different neighborhoods, about different people and events here in Memphis. So definitely we want them to check us out there.
All right.
And with a tour of possibilities, we're on Facebook. We have a website, atopmemphis.com, atopmemphis.com. We're also on Instagram and Twitter, atopmemphis. And I just want to give a personal invitation, because sometimes you need to be invited. So I'm inviting you to come and share this incredible city, especially if you were born and raised here. And for those of you who are transplants like myself, nothing like getting to know your new home. And just come and see and experience. I believe we bring to Memphis a Memphis you can feel, because this city is about feelings.
Yes.
It's about energy, and it's about stuff we see on the news in the morning, but that is not who we are.
Right.
And that's really why I do what I do, because we get caught up in the Kool-Aid. And I just want people to know that this is really an incredible place to be. And just come and spread the word. That's really what'll help.
Well, we appreciate those words, and I just want to thank you guys for being here. And one point that I hope the listeners take home is that, as much as Memphis Heritage Trail and embracing this cultural heritage is about tourism, it's also about us as Memphians. And so as we embrace it, as you said, when the Memphians come in, they're hearing and seeing things that they never knew. It's a self-esteem boost. It's a way for us to embrace this, use it for economic development, but also use it for development of our people here in this city. And so thank you. The human capital. That's what it's about.
To build the community and to build specifically the neighborhoods.
Absolutely.
Exactly. And it's a sense of community pride.
So we thank you for listening to Neighborhood Connect, powered by OCCE Network, and we will catch you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Neighborhood Connect, produced and hosted by Paul Young and Joyce Cox with the City of Memphis Housing Community Development. Neighborhood Connect, produced, recorded, and distributed by OCCE. Thank you for listening to the OCCE Network.
Let's get connected.
Neighborhood Connect.
A renowned author, Mr. Preston Lauterbach.
Welcome.
Thank you. I never get tired of the word renowned. That works.
You are certainly renowned
Neighborhood Connect.
on some of the things that have happened in this community, and so we're glad to have you on the show today.
Well, it's a healthy addiction, I think.
Neighborhood Connect.
Neighborhood Connect.
Here at OCCE.
Best in Blue.
We go into the schools and we educate the kids on the different things that the police department can do. Those 10 officers have about 5 to 10 schools each. Make sure that the students have everything they need.
On the OCCE Network.
OCCE.
Welcome to Kotzukian, We create engaging, thought-provoking radio on-demand programming that fosters a greater sense of community by increasing awareness and understanding about topics that impact our lives. Kadzukian produces a range of programs that appeal to a broad audience. Best in Blue offers a unique view into what the Memphis Police Force is doing to protect and serve the community.
Sometimes some of us are walking down the street or driving down the street and we think we're profiled. But can you give us a little insight onto how that actually comes across to you all as officers in cars and so forth?
And I'm just going to give you an example. It may say, 8636, please be on the lookout for a robbery suspect. He's male black, wearing white t-shirt and blue jeans. Believe it or not, everybody you see from that point
has a white t-shirt and blue jeans at that time.
Exactly. So we have to stop them because we're looking for a robbery suspect.
Funky Politics presents perspectives on issues surrounding politics and societal values in the U.S. in a cool and somewhat irreverent way.
Every major city in America right now is experiencing an uptick in murders and in crime overall. It's not because of just kids that are in school or not in school. It's the community's issue. I would think that the community, either private small business in the community, the churches that are in the community, civic organizations, and the school could form an effective partnership in order to save the school. Because after all, they all share the mutual interest of the community being safe and productive.
R&R on Sports looks at the sports scene from the perspective of dedicated sports fans and holds eye conversations with leaders in the sports industry.
Ed Too Tall Jones, formerly of the Dallas Cowboys. Welcome to R&R on Sports.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. I grew up in Jackson, Tennessee on a farm. I decided I was going to University of Arizona, who had a great baseball program.
What position in baseball did you play?
I played first base.
Okay.
I only weighed 211 pounds at the time.
Okay.
And I was 6'7" and had a rifle on.
Yeah. So not only were you too tall, but you was too skinny, too.
There you go. There you go.
Riffin' on Jazz explores the multifaceted aspects of jazz and its influence on music. Riffin' on Jazz.
I think I know a lot about jazz.
It's only what you've been doing the last 30-some years.
Yeah, I know.
A voice that can make you laugh and make you cry.
Good jazz, you don't have to worry about what they're talking about. But when they pick up those instruments, we all speak the same language. And don't you know you went in the kitchen and come back with a big bowl of salad?
Artivism shares how creativity has been used to challenge and transform long-standing ideas about equality, about equity, diversity, and inclusion.
International artist Tobacco Brown, and we've been talking about her background in landscape art and how she came to be an artist.
I think the piece at Douglas is very, very interesting for me, and it tells the story of Eleanor Roosevelt's visit to Memphis, Tennessee during the Great Depression. These students grew food in the Douglas, what is now Douglas Park. And with this food, they canned 100,000 cans of food for the community and 50,000 cans of food for the school, thus saving their lives during the Great Depression.
Neighborhood Connect tells about the vibrant communities and neighborhoods of Memphis, Tennessee.
A renowned author, Mr. Preston Lauterbach.
Thank you. I never get tired of the word renowned. That works.
You are certainly renowned around these parts. And so we're excited about all the work that you've done to promote Memphis history. You've educated a lot of us.
It's a healthy addiction, I think. You know, you never get sick studying history. Right. You always learn something. You always get enlightened, inspired, and there's no more inspiring and enlightening place than Memphis, Tennessee.
Three Black Chicks gives a glimpse into three women having real conversations about what is happening in their lives.
And so who we are, three Black chicks, very opinionated, very strong.
And we may bump heads and bump fists and bump shoulders, but we gonna work it out.
Blues in the Basement touches on everything you want to know about blues music.
I'll play the blues for you.
Blues in the Basement with Stephanie and T. Shaw.
Some great festivals going on around the tri-state area.
Got your dancing shoes?
Man, as long as I'm with you, baby, I'm always be on my toes.
Drop that zero.
Bring your blues, boo.
I got him.
We'll see you.
Thank you.
Blues in the Basement.
Thrill is gone.
Blues in the Basement, part of the Kazukian Network.
The thrill is gone away.
Reclaiming Community shares community development best practices that can help revitalize and strengthen communities.
Redevelopment efforts and reclaiming community after any disaster, whether it's urban renewal, Hope 6, Choice Neighborhoods, gentrification.
When Katrina first happened, and couldn't really imagine myself in that situation. I couldn't imagine what I would do or, how I would make it from day to day. Then having the opportunity 6 months later to be part of an advanced team that went to Baton Rouge, I saw firsthand the impact of nature on human life.
Join the Kazukian community. Visit Kazukian.com and listen in on some of our dynamic broadcasts.